Welcome, everybody, to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rants alongside Tommy Christ and TK joining us from a popping on Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge. I'm coming to you outside of the AT&T store in Denham Springs on Jubin Road. Happy to announce new phone coming in about 30 minutes. So pumped about that. Need that. So today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to talk about, of course, the national championship game. What a disgusting blowout it was. But we'll get into all of that. Stetson Bennett, he's on the Mount Rushmore of Georgia football. We'll also talk Pelicans tonight. Believe it or not, it marks the 41st game of the year. They take on the first place team in the East, the Celtics, and that game will be the halfway point of the year. So, a lot of people, even though the Pelicans are third place, 2.5 out of first in the West, they haven't gotten into basketball yet because obviously LSU and Saints and everything else has been happening. But now that calendar has turned and those two seasons are over with, look for the bandwagon to fill up down the stretch as the Pelicans are going to push towards the NBA playoffs. Also, some NFL news of notes that TK will tell you about. A lot going on there as the gamblers will get ready for this weekend's NFL matchups. Tommy, LSU basketball last night paid me a little something, but at the same time, Cinderella has struck midnight on LSU basketball. I told everybody in December this was not a good team. Bet against the Tigers. Take the opponent, whatever the point spread is. If LSU's a 14-point favorite, if they're a 2-point dog, whatever it is, go against the Tigers. You'll win a lot more than you'll lose. Well, that was the case again last night. LSU was a 2.5-point favorite. Excuse me, 2.5-point dog at home against Florida. They won. They lost by double digits. But this is where my fat fingers came in, Tommy. I won the bet. I took the under, which was never in doubt. The over-under was 136 on the game. They came in way under. Never made it to 130. And so that was good. And I actually bet a lot more on the under than I did the point spread. But I did go against Florida, even though I knew it wasn't a very good Florida team. They were a 2.5-point favorite against LSU on the road. I was a little bit, but I'm going with my plan. I'm sticking with it. I'm going to take Florida minus 2.5. And it was a little sketchy in the first half, but then Florida put their foot on the throat in the second half. But when I went to hit the app, unbeknownst to me, I hit LSU with my fat finger. So after the game, when I go look at my winnings and I'm like, hey, I'm smart. Let me look at my winnings. I realized I didn't win as much as I thought I did, even though I finished ahead because I accidentally took LSU with a smaller bet, which cost me the under. And I'm sad to announce, Tommy, that's probably the third time in my life I've done that.
Wow, that's unbelievable there, Ron. Yesterday during the day, I pulled a Ronnie Rants. I was thinking, okay, I got to follow Ronnie's theory. I got to bet on Florida. Because, see, LSU was a 2-point favorite and swung all the way to Florida with a couple of LSU guys out the game. And I saw it. I said, I got to go make a bet. Well, I got a phone call or an email popped in. All of a sudden, I never went and did it. So I didn't bet anything. I didn't have the fat fingers wrong bet. I had no bet.
Yeah, I've done that too many times where we've been on the show talking about games and I'm like, oh, I like that. I need to get that game in. And then you get distracted and you forget to do it. But LSU basketball, again, just stay with it, take unders and take the opponent. It is what it is. They won that game against Arkansas. Don't know how they did it. Arkansas played its worst game of the year. They went and took on a Kentucky team, only lost by 3, covered. Now we realize Kentucky's terrible. They've gotten blown out by more than 20. They got beat by 20 to over 20 by Alabama. And then last night to South Carolina, the worst team in the league, a team that had just lost by over 40 its last time out, beat Kentucky in Rupp. So this is not your daddy's Kentucky. Even though they started the season, preseason, top 5 in the country, they're not ranked anymore. And the same can be said for North Carolina, who started the season number 1 in the country, and they're not ranked either. So much for polls.
Chance makes a good point. LSU basketball has no consistent scores except KJ, and that's one of the big problems with that, no question about it. And good morning to Craig. And then also Craig says, Ronnie's pulling the Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were, LSU basketball.
No, that's right. That's right. And look, it is what it is. You took, McMahon took over a program that had no players, literally not a single player on the roster from a scholarship left over. And so, he had to build it through transfer portals and convincing a couple of guys to stay. And, they just don't have the talent. And, that'll change, I'm sure, next year, the year after, as they get into the NIL world and they'll do what they need to do to get it. But I think the first year he wanted to come in, run a clean program, not pay players and all that stuff. And now he realizes it's hard to get talent when you don't do that. And so thanks to NIL, now he can do it. He can make damn strong offers without getting fired. So,
and he'll evaluate when the season's over, and he'll know what holes he has to fill, and he'll try to get it done.
All right. So before we move on to talking about the Georgia domination of TCU, the most dominant national championship game in the history of championship games, I want to tell you about this event one more time. Friday night over at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. All the tables for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame fundraiser are sold out for Friday night fights featuring 7 wrestling matches and, of course, 1 championship boxing match between Ryan Maranto and Casey McKenzie. The tables are sold out. The reserve seats are sold out. We do have general admission tickets available for only $15. It's fun for the whole family. There's lots of people coming with kids. Of course, they enjoy the wrestling part. And you're going to want to be there because people are going to be talking about this event for years to come because of all the special things that are going to happen. Go to lasportshall.com, get your tickets now before they sell out, and believe me, they will. And here's a little commercial to tell you about this event Friday night that hopefully you'll attend.
It's going down.
The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame presents Friday the 13th Night Fights. 7 pro wrestling matches January 13th at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center and 1 celebrity boxing match for the ages. Pro Wrestling 225 and Gulf States Wrestling will feature 7 matches, 4 of which will be for championship belts. All the proceeds to benefit the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Foundation, Dreams Come True, and St. Jude. Get your tickets now because the main event, Glitz vs. Grits, will take place immediately following the wrestling, featuring Casey the Rougarou McKenzie. From Back Bruley, no career wins, but no career losses. And he will take on Ryan, the Pod Piper of Partying Maranto. He's never won a fight. He's never lost an after party. Get your tickets now. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame presents Glitz vs. Grits, January 13th. Get your tickets at lasportshall.com. That's lasportshall.com. And special thanks to the following sponsors.
All right, that is this Friday night. All right, let's talk national championship game, Tommy. Right before the game, as we were literally like 15 minutes before the game, it just hit me. It hit me 2 things. It hit me, listen, all along we thought Georgia was the better team. Let's not get caught up in thinking about the semifinal and how they survived and advanced against Ohio State. This is the better team. And, oh, by the way, the thing about it that really solidified it for me, Tommy, was that the TCU, they haven't played a gauntlet like they are going through right now, which was play Michigan in this high-flying game, very physical game, and then 7 days later or whatever, 8 days later, turn around and have to play Georgia. And I just figured Georgia was more battle-tested with the SEC, being able to play opponents back-to-back weeks. You know what I mean? Having to go against, the tougher opponents back-to-back. They were more used to the grind of playing a high-level opponent back-to-back, where TCU in the Big 12, quite frankly, they weren't. And so those 2 things, like Georgia's the better team. They've got NFL talent all over that field, especially in the trenches. They're used to playing back-to-back big games and physical games. TCU, not as much. Everybody's gonna be patting TCU on the back all week, telling them what they. And so I went Georgia minus 14 at the time that I bought it, and I took the over. I've been saying the over all along. I thought TCU would score points. I thought they would score at least 20 points, and it'd be like a 40-something to 20-something game. As it was, this was over from the very first quarter.
No question, Ron. And then I read a stat shortly before the game got going that swayed me. Now, first off, I thought they had, I went with the under. I went against the grain. It was 52-7. I was yelling for them to kneel on the ball, both teams. Okay, this thing's over. But then shortly before the game, like within a half hour, I read that Georgia had 15 five-star players on their roster. TCU had 1. I immediately bet Georgia first quarter, first half, and the game. I was buying drinks later that night. I had a big night, okay? Hit them all. Never stopped. A couple of my friends jumped on that same bet. They were sending me drinks.
I did too, Tommy. I did too. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just a men with boys. And I'm still trying to confirm a text that I sent out, Ronnie, that the Georgia team told their punter in the first quarter, go sit with your parents because we don't need you tonight.
That would be pretty awesome. No, it was a absolutely dominant performance by Georgia. You know, Stetson Bennett, I'm curious to see what the future holds for him because, you know, he's now won back-to-back national championships. That's hard to do. I don't care what program you are, who you're with or whatever.
And the MVP in both games.
Yeah, MVP in both games. And the question I have, Tommy, is we all want to know, right? Is he going to be a pro, and how good of a pro will he be? Will he make a team? Will he get drafted? Yada, yada, yada. Everybody has such differing opinions. It's really going to be an interesting story because a lot of people think, no way, he's not a pro talent. He's not a, you know, blah, blah, blah. But there's something about this guy, man. You know, in the sense that don't count him out. He's smart. He's got moxie. He makes good decisions. He's willing to put his body on the line. Like, you know, there's more. Quarterback is so much about being a leader of men and being tough and making smart decisions than it is about the physical traits. Just look at, you know, quarterbacks around the league. We see that all the time.
Well, yeah, and I've read everything from he's going to be a 5th, 6th round pick to he's a free agent. A couple people thinking 3rd, 4th round. Here's the thing, Ronnie. You only have to have one team like you. You only have to have one of the 32 teams say, hey, we want that guy in our camp to see what he can maybe do. He's not going to start an NFL game next September. But if he could get in the right system, the right team, the right setup, then, you know, maybe he learns a little something that could be an adequate backup in the league. Like a Chase Daniel guy. Chase Daniel's still in the league. That's like 12, 13 years. He's made millions. And he's never been a front-running starter that a team thought could take him to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be an interesting story to follow, as you said, with, just where is he going to land? Where is he going to end up? Or does he say, hey, I got other plans? You know, I mean, he's like 24 years old. Josh Allen's only 1 year older than him. Let that sink in. Right. Josh Allen of the Bills is 1 year older than Stetson Bennett. So maybe he's got, 4 or 5 degrees and he's going to go do, be like an Eddie Furnace, go be a doctor and say the heck with it. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to follow because 2 MVPs, back-to-back titles. As you said, he's on the Mount Rushmore of Georgia Bulldog football.
Yeah, him and Herschel Walker. You talk about different physical attributes. I mean, that's pretty unbelievable. Matt Mock played in the NFL. Matt Flynn played in the NFL. You know what I mean? And I believe Stetson Bennett can absolutely play in the NFL particularly as a backup. Now, he's not NFL starting quality there, TK, but for sure he's a guy who can play in the NFL.
Ronnie, you can't see the comments on the screen. Am I correct?
I can, but I don't have my glasses on.
Okay, well, they got one here from Dara that says hot stuff. I don't know if she's talking about you or me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to get Dara to clarify that.
Definitely you. Definitely you. All right, let's talk. We'll get off that. Georgia, by the way, a preseason poll came out already.
Several of them.
And LSU is ranked second in the country in one. I don't know. I didn't see another one, but
6 or 7 is where I've seen it. But hey, they could, Brian Kelly, they getting the props, more transfer portal guys, great incoming class. After we get past February 1, they're going to have 37 to 40 players coming into the LSU program.
Crazy. Let's talk about little Pelicans for a minute. Pelicans halfway through their season. I can't believe it's already the 41st game of the year. Taking on the Celtics tonight, obviously still without some players. Going to be interesting to see how they fare against the best team in the East. I can't see that.
Craig says Dara must need glasses like Ronnie.
Exactly.
And she's looking at his video saying hot stuff. Holy smokes.
Tell me about the Pelicans right now on tonight's matchup and the line and everything.
Well, they're 9.5-point dogs on the road against Boston. Boston leads the East right now. They're 4 games ahead of the Pelicans if you put them in the same conference standings. So they've been a good team, and big challenge for the Pelicans on the road. You got to find out who's playing, who's not playing. That's kind of the trend in the NBA now. You better check the rosters as to who's going to play, who's hurt, who's not. Halfway through the season, like you said, Ryan, like, wait a minute, how did that happen? We're halfway through the NBA season, but that's a fact. And Pelicans are in a great spot if they can keep it up, and through the second half, get Zion back, whatever they got to do.
I also, look, I think as the city, as the crowd, as the calendar turns, once they get Ingram back in the fold, healthy, fully. This team, the sky's the limit. I like the position that they're at right now. They haven't played their best basketball the entire season. They haven't been healthy the entire season. That bodes well for a push in the second half. And we've seen it many, many times, especially with teams like Golden State and the Lakers and others that, or like the Heat when they had the big three. You don't always have to be the best team the entire year. You just have to be playing your best when you get to the playoffs. And I think that you can kind of feel like the Pelicans may be in that situation this year. All right, one last thing. Let's talk about the NFL this weekend, TK. Some news and notes about the playoffs.
Well, one thing, you got 6 wild card games this weekend, 2 Saturday, 3 Sunday, 1 Monday. Every single game is a rematch from the regular season. And, of course, some of them played twice, like the Bills and the Ravens. And they played the Bengals and the Ravens, and they played last week. That has happened before. But every game is a rematch. So when you're trying to make your bets at the Barstool Sportsbook at the LeBares Casino and Hotel, you can look at the history when they played each other. I did some studying last night. I like Jacksonville. It's the first one that I'm thinking, hey, that's who I got to bet on. And we'll see how Jacksonville can do. That's a Saturday night game against the Chargers. They pounded the Chargers back in September, beat them 35-10. But that's a whole nother world from now. But check out all your NFL wildcard weekend games. It's going to be fun. There's a couple of big spreads. There's a couple of small spreads. We're going to talk more about it Friday. We'll talk about it Saturday morning on Sports Shorts Radio. So it's going to be a fun weekend, no doubt.
So the Chargers, a couple things about that Chargers game. I like Jacksonville as well. Neither team's used to being in the playoffs. So you got 2 young quarterbacks that haven't, that are, having to, as far as programs that are kind of up and comers and going to be the face of the NFL, but in the future. But the Chargers. So I did an over/under bet of I took under 10 wins on the Chargers this year, and if you really follow the Chargers, which of course I did because I had the under 10 wins, they had at least 2 wins where they completely pulled a rabbit out of the hat. Should not have won the games and did. But in week 18, with sitting on 10 wins, the Chargers just needed to beat the lowly Denver Broncos to get to 11 wins and would have cost Ronnie Rance $500 in losses. Instead, Russell Wilson played his best game of the year, may have made Sean Payton reconsider taking that job because Russell Wilson showed he's still a dude. And even with the Chargers starting at starters, they went out there and beat the Los Angeles Chargers, did the Broncos, kept the Chargers at 10 wins, and allowed me to push my bet, Tommy. It's as if I won because I had already moved some money from my savings to my checking to pay for that $500 bet. And as it was, it's ended up being a push. So let's go, Russell Wilson. I am on board for the Broncos at 23.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that worked out for you. That's a nice way to have it happen. Instead of a bad beat, you had a good thing there. Right. Ronnie, some people in New Orleans, close to the Saints, Sean Payton situation, have told me, not that he's coming to the Saints, so don't get your red velvet cake ordered just yet, but they said he is asking for $20 million a year to become the coach. About 12 or 13 years ago, or right after the Bounty Gate, he became the highest paid. He was the highest paid coach in the NFL one year when it was like $7.8 million or $8.2 million. They're saying he wants $20 million and or maybe $15 million in a part ownership of a team, kind of like Saban got with the Dolphins back in the day from Wayne Huizenga. So the asking price is going to be high. But from Peyton, not to mention what the Saints will ask, for 2 first-round picks, a first-round and a third-round pick, maybe a player or two, depending on what team it is. I mean, that's going to be interesting to follow as well as we get into this offseason.
Yeah, remember we have a bet. Tommy said if Sean Payton goes to the Saints, I owe him a red velvet cake of his choosing. If he goes anywhere else, I get to order mine. So we'll be following it closely for sure. We'll have a red velvet cake party. We'll tell you where it's at. If you want to come join us on Sports Church Radio, you can. All right, TK, tell us about Tremonti's before we get out of here.
Well, it's Wine Wednesday. Got all the wine selection, tremendous wine selection here. Any kind you want, top-end wine, or you want to just bottle to pop open at night, you can get it at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Swamp buckets are back in stock. Very popular item, especially with crawfish season right around the corner. Some people already got crawfish. Tremonti's got a couple of weeks more before he can get the pretty crawfish that he wants here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Lunch special today is lasagna, so come check them out or visit the website, tremontis.com.
For Tommy Christ, I'm Ronnie Rance. We'll be back Friday morning. Until then, don't forget, go to lasportshall.com, get your tickets for this Friday night. Have a good week, everybody.